Okay, now it's my great pleasure to invite one of the significant leaders in the industry, Johanna Woods from Vodafone, to give us her perspective today.
Good afternoon, everybody. So a really exciting way to open the summit for the afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic announcement for the Qatar market. So congratulations to all those involved. Really, really excited for those products and for all that's to come off the back of the collaboration that we've announced today. So I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail around the opportunity. So network APIs, how do we capitalize? How do we grow? How do we scale and really achieve the potential of this opportunity? So just to give a little bit of insight as to what we've been up to as Vodafone. So I run the program globally for Vodafone. There's a bit of a journey, there's a bit of a story, and some of this narrative you may have heard in the past. Let me root the network APIs. At the end of the day, this is all about solving business outcomes. How can we, as a telco industry, work together to create solutions for problems that we're seeing or for opportunities that we can create? So what have we already delivered? So you heard it here today in terms of the announcement for Qatar. A good place to start. One of the places that all of the operators have started, fraud detection. So for example, some of the API products that you'll see that underpin this, SIM swap APIs, the scam signal API, tenure, number recycle. In the UK market, for example, our launch of the scam signal product, we were able to deliver a 25 to 40% improvement in how the banks were able to detect socially engineered fraud. So this is that example where somebody calls you and they pretend to be your bank and they convince you to make that transaction. They tell you that something's happened to your account. So intuitively, you think we as telcos should have a pretty good set of indicators for that product, and indeed we do, and we were able to deliver a 40% improvement in those fraud detection rates. What are we launching now? What's coming now? The second problem that we're looking to tackle, that we're looking to solve, frictionless authentication. Frictionless, right? And we take that seriously. So imagine how many products, how much interaction you have across the banks, across the social networks, across the e-commerce companies, where you are entering your phone number, you're using this as a method of communication. We will make that service frictionless. And not only the authentication element, but we're able to add information to how we are validating and authenticating that customer. We can authenticate the customer into the likes of TikTok, and we can advise TikTok, this customer is over the age of 18. This customer is over the age of 16. We can provide services like KYC Match, which provides scoring for the information. So for example, the likes of Klarna, you go through an e-commerce website, you go to checkout, and Klarna is taking a risk, right? Because you're going to pay in staged payments, but they're going to ship the product today, right? And so we have a service, KYC Match, that we are able to offer to Klarna, where when that customer checks out and they say, my name is Justin and I live at 5 the High Street, Klarna provides that information in via the telco, and we match the information that you've given to Klarna against the information that we have within the CRM, and we provide a score. So we would say, that's a 60% match, or that's a 90% match with the information we have on file. And based on that score, Klarna can make a decision, okay, am I going to progress with that sale, or am I going to take that risk? And we can layer on the data. I can say, that's a 90% match to the information I've got, but via the tenure API, I can tell Klarna, and I've had that customer for 5 years, or I've had that customer only 3 months. So we can give a kind of quality addition to the score that is being provided. And this is really how we take a service like seamless logon and authentication and start to layer on the quality of the experience that we are able to offer to the digital players and customers in that space. Where are we headed? What comes next? Fraud, great. Authentication, great. These are services that, have been kicking around for a while. What's on the horizon, right? The next point that's coming, and is now, right, is absolutely programmable connectivity. Okay? So imagine the scenario. We were talking yesterday. I was on an AI panel, Agentic AI, talk of the conferences. In a world where your AI is no longer an assistant, but now it's an independent actor, you can absolutely see how, an app that is receiving a particular experience from the network. Let's say I'm Netflix and the service starts to buffer, or I'm an e-commerce app and I'm worried that the connectivity is not going to be good enough for the payment to go through. That app can autonomously request from the network an improvement in quality on demand. It can request for its data to be prioritized. It can request for a slice. It can, via the Connectivity Insights API, query the network for where I am headed into. This is what's coming. This is the programmable connectivity that is on the horizon, that is coming, that is launching, that is in creation. Great. Good products. Sounds lovely. How do we scale this? Without scale, these are just individual use cases, nice stuff to think about, little pockets of innovation. Collaboration. Collaboration is absolutely critical, right? And there's 4 areas in which we need to collaborate. 1, we must collaborate between the CSPs. It's why today's announcement is so critical. A fraud product for a market that works on only one operator, generously, let's say 35% of the market covered, is of little or no interest to a bank. They don't know which operator their customers reside on, and therefore having the market coverage for these services is really critical. And that's why it's so important, market by market, we sit around the table and we collaborate with our other operators on what we're going to develop and how we're going to bring it to market. Industry bodies, that's where these guys come in, right? You see today in terms of the Open Gateway Forum. How can we as operators sit around the table and agree what to build? Surely that's going to create an issue for antitrust. But in this instance, if we don't, it prevents the opportunity for us unlocking the services to the developer. And so, along with Open Gateway, a carefully crafted antitrust compliant framework has been created that allows us to do this. And what's more, Kamara, right? The likes of Kamara. So for anyone that's not familiar, Kamara is an open source Linux Foundation collaboration project. It's not limited to the CSPs. Critical point. Anybody can go into Kamara if you are a developer, a hyperscaler, an aggregator, anything to do with the ecosystem, and you see an opportunity, take it into Kamara, open a project. Let's work together to solve for the opportunity that is spotted. Absolutely critical. Ecosystem, the channel partners. These are all such important components. When these products are created, they may be, consumed by an aggregator to cover all of the market. Maybe they're going to go, we build an age verification product. Maybe that's going to go into a solution provider who's building an identity product, right? And they didn't know about telco network APIs, but we can put our product into the solution that's already in market. FICO or LexisNexis in terms of fraud engines and security products, adding these services into the services that are there today. The ecosystem engagement is really critical for this opportunity. And finally, customers. I guarantee we could have, as industry, sat in a dark room for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, in a million years. We would never have dreamt up the need for a SIM swap API. A SIM swap API. I mean, as telco, what on earth is the value of a SIM swap API, right? But because we collaborated with the finance industry and with the banks, and we looked at, actually, statistically, SIM swap is an enormous indicator of fraud for financial services. Stopping and thinking from an outside perspective, that collaboration revealed the value of that information, the value of that product. Scam Signal, the same. We didn't, Scam Signal was born out of taking banking data and then analyzing telco data to see where the two would come together and to see what those indicators are. Collaboration is absolutely the parent of a lot of where these products have come from. Please, please, please don't rely on telco to dream up the products to build. Come and get involved, come and give input, and help us understand the challenges of industry and the opportunities that lie there. Collaboration is absolutely going to be the key to this success. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Joanna. A very passionate point of view from Vodafone there on the use cases that you can see quite evident from a customer perspective. Now, most of our mobile phones, and in fact our CPEs, customer premise equipment, sit on the back of wireline networks. Your mobile phone's on a Wi-Fi network, and your television is connected to a fixed line network. So just recently, the GSMA and Amplify, which used to be called MEF, signed a collaboration agreement so we can start to look at the fulfillment and the provision of those wireline network use cases. So it's my great pleasure to invite on stage Daniel Bar-Lev, who's the Chief Product Officer for Amplify. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Great, thank you. So I'm going to talk for the next few minutes about the collaboration between Amplify and GSMA. And I'm going to talk a bit about NAS. Amplify is the industry body that's enabling collaboration between service providers and the rest of the ecosystem. So when we enable collaboration, what we're doing is exactly what was mentioned by my colleague Joanna before. We're enabling the stakeholders to come together and deliver network as a service that will be delivered through NAS APIs. And we talked a lot about programmability. Programmability of network as a service is incredibly important. We need to be able to use APIs in order to access the value of NAS services, network services. But we need other attributes as well. We need observability. We need to know that things are happening in real time. We need manageability, and this all needs to be on demand. So we are bringing together at Amplify the stakeholders to be able to deliver network as a service across both fixed and mobile networks. How do we do that? We bring the stakeholders together to define what are the products that need to be delivered over those APIs in a standardized way. And one of the key use cases just mentioned, an example, is quality on demand, because we need quality on demand from the user all the way through to the the network and to the system and the applications. So that's what we're defining with our membership. We are an industry body of 200 service providers and their ecosystem partners, and we're defining together those standards that will enable quality on demand from end to end. And we're also developing and defining, in collaboration with our members, the APIs, the business APIs and the operational APIs that we have under what we call LSO, Lifecycle Service Orchestration. But what we're seeing is that the world of agentic AI is coming very, very fast into network as a service, and it is we need to be able to support network APIs in a world of agentic AI. And so what we're doing is we're bringing together all the members of our organization to define the different layers, the different components that are required for end-to-end quality on demand. So at Amplify, we've defined the network APIs, the business APIs, and the operational APIs for the fixed network operators. So the fixed network operators are able to deliver quality on demand, and they're using our APIs at the business and operational level to do that. What we're doing now is we're collaborating with GSMA and with Kamara to add in network APIs, so that network APIs will fit in seamlessly and enable mobile operators and fixed network operators to deliver quality on demand for your applications end to end. So you as a user don't have to worry about what's behind the network. Is it mobile or is it fixed? And when we look at the overall ecosystem, we see that GSMA, together with Kamara, is providing the application developers with access to the mobile operators. But we, at Amplify, what we've done is we've defined the APIs that connect the mobile networks to the fixed network operators, so that seamlessly we can deliver quality on demand. But in addition, we need to make those APIs much more accessible, not only to developers, but also to AI agents, to agentic AI. And that's a lot of the work that we're doing now, is introducing the components that are required in order to deliver network APIs in a form that will be consumable by agentic AI. And we can see this in this diagram, that we have the enterprise developers at the top, we have the fixed line operators at the bottom, and they are facing the rest of the mobile operator ecosystem, not only over the APIs that we've developed and standardized, but also over network as a service for AI and the new technologies that enable consumption of the network through agentic AI. I'll just wrap up with a couple of examples of what we've done with our members, Colt and Orange. Last March at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, they demonstrated the delivery of quality on demand from a technician in a remote site all the way back to a live broadcast site over both the Orange mobile 5G network in tandem with the Colt fixed network. And what they did was they demonstrated that they were able to adjust the quality of the network in order to optimize the delivery of that video stream. So that was earlier this year. And what they're planning for at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona in 2026 is to introduce agentic AI to make this not only scalable, but highly automated, and to make it business outcome oriented. In other words, in this case, we see the example of a car that its software needs to be updated on demand, telemetry needs to be delivered to the car, so that the manufacturer of the car wants to be able to guarantee for anybody that buys their product that they will be able to deliver the software upgrade within 60 seconds in this example, and also deliver telemetry within 60 seconds. And so they define the outcome experience, which is measured as a score, and then we use agentic AI to continuously monitor how the network is delivering, and if it isn't delivering, to automatically adjust the network, whether it's mobile or fixed, so that the experience of the car user is exactly the outcome that was requested. So I will stop here. Those are two use cases, examples of what we're doing with quality on demand, how we're delivering standardized network as a service in the era of agentic AI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Really important to actually understand how you actually fulfill end-to-end quality connectivity or communications in that sense. I'm a great believer that in the new era of AI, agents and agentic AI, not only are we going to see the user endpoints, mobile phones and CPEs, have a level of portability, but those agents and where those services are talking to is going to have a significant amount of portability as well. How do we track it? How do we fulfill it? Right, let's actually go to a very practical use case now. And Mohsin Tamazi, founder of Hamaya, is going to talk to us about money transfers using APIs to support the migrant workers. Welcome, Mohsin. And we've just got a technical problem. So I might do a filler for about 2 seconds. There we go. Finished. Can we hear Mohsin?
You can? Yeah.
Mohsin.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you so very much. I will just take that. So, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone.
Founder or...
So, let's think about the folks that the Uber driver who drove you probably to this venue, or about the ushers who are typically transparent, helping you come up to the venue, find you around, guide you, the security guys. These, unfortunately, are the very underserved segment of the society. So today, while we are all dressed up in suits, think about people who have to live their lives wearing a dangri or a white helmet, which we call blue-collar workers. So today, these blue-collar workers, the 30 million blue-collar workers in the GCC, which are sending $120 billion to their families every year out of the GCC, making it the world's largest outbound remittance corridor. So it is about 80% of their salaries that they send back home. So in the top 6 markets, 1.75 billion people with their siloed identities are waiting for that money. So these identities belong to their loved ones, which are looking to receive that money. So these identities typically which have a static information connecting father, son, and no more than that. Or would have no disability or static information about even life. So there is no family tree information. So from a country where I come from, Pakistan, our ID infrastructure is built with relationship intelligence. On the screen, you would see my own digital identity certificates that connect me with my father and my parental linkage. And then there is another ID that connects me to my wife and kids. So unlike other markets, we have a unified family ID which can be used to group the teams together or group the family together. This is where we are enabling that group ID to activity happen. So I can connect to my family and build products that would have a family appeal. Most of these other markets, none of these 5 other markets have this. And this is where Joanna, my colleague, was telling, this is the demand that the telecom operators can fill in. That opportunity to bind where the national ID is silent, bringing the relationship intelligence into the static IDs. So what we're doing is we are building the solution which takes this healthcare insurance as a micro insurance and builds onto those remittance rails. So this is what typically which is missing when the people in the families consume the money that is being sent. The typical thing left is healthcare. So we are putting up with micro insurance products that ride onto those remittance rails to solve for that protection gap. Introducing you to Himaya, which is the world's first cross-border healthcare insurance platform. What we do is we are a triple play insurtech platform which provides technology, operations, and claims management to protect the families back home for these blue-collar workers. We, using our open API interface, we connect the insurers with the remittance service providers to build protection right where it is needed. We are enabling this cross-border healthcare insurance in Pakistan. We are national infrastructure, but for the other markets, we are using it either manually or with siloed APIs. Now imagine what could happen when this is brought up at scale. So Himaya is a financial service. Think about other group products. Netflix, Spotify, the media companies use these group IDs to bind the IDs together to enable group plans. Airlines, air miles can be pooled with digitally. Similarly, the mobility giants can make these groups for security offering to put a fence around the geography. In the financial services world, just like group insurance, in the Western world, it's called ROSCA, but over here, it's called Jamia. So Jamia is a group savings plan where you have group, where you can bind the people together and they can exchange. So all of this, what we call a family graph, is enabling not only digital identities to be pushed up with a relationship intelligence. We are building it for the blue-collar workers on a short-term and long-term solutions of financial wellness. These products can be built in by telecom operators as a loyalty amongst the prepaid segments. So imagine a telecom operator offering a prepaid plan to these blue-collar workers, saying if you buy a plan with us, your family gets to be insured for a full year. Or maybe 6 months you pay half and half and we will split the health cover. Similarly, what we are doing is building up a transaction remittance cover. So the mobile money operators embed insurance as a loyalty product in their flows. So instead of differentiating the service using the standard exchange rate or a lucky draw or a cashback, which to these blue-collar workers react very immediately, but for a very short term. We are bringing insurance as a long-term relationship building latch-on cost of acquisition, which which the remittance providers can add into their interface. Think about these blue-collar workers. We are converting this $120 billion of remittances into a safety protection net. We are embedding trust in the transaction and peace of mind in every transaction. We are a Qatari insurtech backed by Qatar Development Bank and a graduate from Qatar FinTech Hub, which gives us the access to not only the Qatari market, but the access to all these remittance corridors, the 6 remittance corridors on the sending side, and about 6 top receiving corridors on the receiving side. So I thank you for your time and attention. Thank you very much. Ahead of time, huh?
Thank you very much, Mohsin. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Rob Curver, who's the founding partner of Capasa, and he's going to actually lead and moderate our next panel. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, Henry. Thanks. It's great to be here. I don't think I have slides, so that's easy. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for staying around for this panel session. We're going to try and have a bit of a discussion now, because we heard from a telco, we heard from Mohsin, which was really great, by the way. I loved your talk about trust. So we're going to talk about trust. My name is Rob Curver. I'm the founding partner of an organization called the CPaaS Acceleration Alliance, or Capasa in short. We bring the CPaaS and the telco industries together. Because the thing, Johanna, while you come on stage, and Eli as well, from ServiceNow, and Mohsin, please come on stage. The thing you were missing in your slide about collaboration was the CPaaS guys. So I have some questions. Because the thing is, today, as you may or may not know, there's about a $10 billion business in SMS one-time passwords. We get them every day, from our bank, from our airline, from booking, from anything we try to do on our iPhone or Android phone, whatever. The first thing you get is an SMS with a code. And we all hate them because you need to do that. But we all love them because they also give us the trust that apparently there's a check. So that's very interesting. I was thinking about it recently, about network APIs and the silent part. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk with you guys about where we are now. Awesome introduction and announcement today. Then what use cases we have, and we have on stage today, very cool, a telco. Elise from ServiceNow, so he represents the enterprises of the world, the large enterprises with workflows, and then Mohsin, startup and innovation. So we're going to talk with the telco, enterprises, and startups about the dynamics in this ecosystem. Because I personally think that network APIs are really cool. And we spent the last 3 or 4 years, whatever, standardizing APIs, whatever, in dark rooms, and they came up with APIs, and nobody really cares. Who cares about an API? We care about that $10 billion business. Or how much was the business for what you described, Mohsin?
$120 billion.
That's good money. That's business here. So I think network APIs, what we need to talk about more is where the money is and how we get there. So step 1, the APIs are defined, sort of, and we're being brought to market. So that's really cool. Joanna, please. Why was it so hard, or is it so hard, for the operators to work together that you need a formal announcement here today? And again, congratulations that it got done. It was really cool, really big step, and we're seeing it more around the world, right? US last week, 1 or 2 weeks ago,
Yep.
all the major carriers there cooperating. We've seen it in the Netherlands, we've seen it in Brazil already. So more and more of those regions are being lit up, if you will, with a few of the operators working together. Why is it so hard for the operators to work together?
It's a great question, Rob. Look, I think ultimately a lot of these things that you say, right? We made good progress on standardization. We made good progress on this. Candidly, technology change is relatively easy, right? How do we progress the technology? But what we're talking about with collaboration is a cultural shift. we are operators where, quite candidly, it is somewhat ingrained within us to compete. You know, we sit in markets and we look at our competition. So in many ways, you know, we are set up to compete. We are set up to go against one another in the interest of the consumer. So when an opportunity comes along that requires us to collaborate, and I want to be clear, not every single API opportunity requires collaboration. There is plenty of opportunity for us to differentiate, but for a central purpose where we're talking about fraud or authentication, where the customer that we're selling to doesn't know which network their customer is on, it absolutely does require market coverage. And I think that culture shift for us as industry is one that's quite significant. Even talking as Vodafone, when I first joined 4 years ago, in the boardroom, the conversation was always, how are we going to differentiate? How are we going to have the best APIs? Yes, but how is, I get that we're going to standardize them, but how will ours be better than everybody else's? And there is an element of that. We can talk about latency or performance, but the reality is, the cold hard facts of what the API does needs to be consistent and needs to be collaborative, and that is something I think culture change takes a lot longer, and I think it's really exciting to see country by country, region by region. We're now seeing that sort of early stage adoption really speed up, and as you say, we're seeing announcements almost on a weekly basis around the world as different markets are coming to the table.
Cool. Thanks. I get it and I don't get it, but I'm glad we're here, right? And I'm glad that we have the mindset now for the operators that they need to open a network. I also get the collaboration, right? As you say, with the operators, and it's brilliant work that GSMA, Open Gateway have done with the team over the last couple of years. And in our alliance, we have, Vodafone, our member, but also Sinch and Twilio and Infobip, all the big CPaaS guys. So we're trying to bridge that gap as well, and also towards startups and scale-ups and AI, and we'll get to that in the other 13 minutes that Justin kindly gave me. So let's move to the enterprise voice. Eli, ServiceNow, you're a major worldwide, huge platform, ERP, whatever, enterprises, 80% of the Fortune 500, whatever, uses it, and telcos use it. So why are you excited about network APIs?
We are an AI platform, or the AI platform for business transformation. You're right, we cover the automation aspect for enterprises, but we do it very well for telecoms as well, end-to-end, across the service value chain. And we find APIs and the demand for this API is extremely important and something that needs to be taken with a lot of, looked at with a lot of attention, because we do two things that help in that aspect. One, we help with the collaboration that Joanna talked about earlier. And two, we allow the use of these APIs. We allow, whether you're a telco or an enterprise, to actually commercialize it, get the outcome out of it, turn it from a trigger to an action. Because by the end of the day, the end user is looking transparently at what's happening under the hood or at the API itself. The telco company is providing a service to a financial institution or a bank to make the end-to-end workflow, as we call it, function. So by the end of the day, telcos, they need a way to monetize this. They need a platform to engage with the right audience or the right market for these types of APIs, hence the platform story. But there is also an enterprise requirement for this workflow to be very seamless, or Joanna called it frictionless. And to remove this friction, you really want to go from a trouble to resolve or order to pay quickly without noticing what's happening in the background. So I'll give you an example.
I like that part. And it goes back to what I said, right? We recognize the SMS OTP that we get, right? And it tells us there's security going on. I kind of like that. If I didn't get that from my airline when I made a booking, I'd be suspicious. Is it even secure? So I think but the reason we need to go there is because we need these workflows to be more secure, so it needs to be frictionless and faster. And I think we're going to talk, let's wait for the AI part for a few more minutes, right? And we get to the AI, because I think that agentic AI story, and I love what you were talking about yesterday, Joanna, in that other session, that changes everything, right? We cannot stand or stick with the SMS OTP thing. We need smarter solutions. So let me go to Motion real quick. We just saw your story. Why do you need all of these operators to provide these network APIs capabilities that you depend on? Very simple.
So, again, I'll build up from the human connections, right? So what we are trying to solve for is human connections, and why there is agentic AI and everything which is trying to take over. So the human connections are built of the traits and relationships, right? So the network should understand the relationships and the limitations. So I probably missed on that part, but I've got a specially abled child, right? So he's with disability, and the card that the family graph that we had, he has a disability mark on that card. But when he enters the metro, would the metro stay a little bit longer because the wheelchair needs to get in, right? So all of the use cases, some of them that I talked about in case of that, but the relationships and the unique personal traits have to be combinedly understood by the network. And it cannot be a siloed activity, right? So if Vodafone knows it and Ooredoo doesn't want to collaborate, but it's in the best interest of relationships in the society, right? Around safety that we talked about. Now that payment issue is solved, that I can walk into a ride-hailing app and then walk out of it without paying. But my relationship with my daughter and how I want to see that covered if she goes out of a certain periphery, I should be alerted and would make sure that only me as a father can get access to that information. So the relationships which are lost in the world of AI is something that needs to bridge back with the help of these intelligent networks.
I love that. I love that angle, because I think the human component we often forget when we talk about telcos and networks and 5G and standalone and blah, blah, blah. It's really about humans and solving real problems in society. I think this is a great example. And I love how telcos are coming back into that picture, right? Because for a long time, telcos were sort of, I don't know, dumb pipes and more for less and cheaper and no ARPU and whatever. So, Joanna, going back to you.
After you insulted our industry.
I have another question for you. So, announced today, right, in Qatar, and you're also live with Du, I think, in UAE, and Vodafone is across the world in a couple more regions. So you're on a roll, right? This is a thing. It's really happening, country by country, right?
It's really happening.
Tell us a few use cases that you have live, up and running with network APIs from anywhere in the world. I mean, Qatar is new. So what are the sort of things that people can expect also here in the region next year?
Yeah. So happy to give I gave a couple of examples earlier, so I'll also try and strive for a little bit of breadth, but couple of services. And look, the human element is critical here, right? Because without the human element, we're just building services that don't drive anything, right? So APIs at the end of the day are products. They need to deliver a great experience. And if we miss the mark, honestly, there's no take-up for the APIs we create. So a couple of examples. We have a product launching. So this is a bit of a sneak peek. We have a product launching in the next couple of weeks in the UK market, where we will offer businesses. So for those of you, I'm sure you can relate, phone rings, unknown number. Likelihood to answer the phone call, fairly minimum. But there's always that chance that the person that's calling you is your doctor, is your bank, that the call is actually valid, right? And they're trying to get hold of you. We're launching a service in the UK where we will allow businesses to verify themselves with us, essentially, and then we will brand that call coming into the network. It's a Kamara API. It's one of the first global implementations. So we will display the brand of the caller coming into the network. We can go on to display the reason for the call and the logo. And if a call comes onto the network that doesn't match the credentials that we've done a KYB on, the call will be blocked. This is a service, look, we're building a Kamara implementation. There are a number of implementations globally, so it's not that this is the first time it's been done. And we know, for example, in the US market, the adoption has been so successful that now if the call is not branded, nobody answers the phone. So I think giving that confidence to the consumer that this is a verified call, that with confidence, this is the call I was expecting from the doctor's office. Taking that call with the reason will give more consumer confidence. So we have that planned for a number of our countries. So we're rolling that out at the moment.
Cool. Now let's move. We have 5 more minutes. Let's move into the world of AI, just because we should. It's the big change coming, right? So, Eli, you started talking about ServiceNow as an AI platform for enterprises and also for telcos. And you have that service bridge thing where these things connect. So, how are enterprises in your workflow AI world, how are they going to do this AI stuff? And why do they need the telcos to give you those network APIs, the trust to make this stuff work in the first place?
Yeah. They're not going to do it. They're doing it right now. They've already started. The agents on the platform, the AI agents, are up and running with a lot of functions. And when you think about agentic, you got to move from the deterministic workflow of the agent. So it's not one agent doing one specific thing. You got an orchestrator that runs on the platform, spins up a team of agents, and each one of them takes a specific use case. They work together, and they give the outcome. So when we think about the APIs and the importance of that, of those APIs becomes clearer in a minute, they become tools that these agents require to do the job. So by the end of the day, we look at the APIs as triggers to an action again, something that will feed into a workflow and eventually drive an outcome. They are so essential to those agents because they cannot function without tools. Of course, you also need the data element, which ServiceNow covers quite well, both for the enterprise and the telcos. But when you have this orchestrator spinning up the agents and the teams of APIs, one of them, let's say in a dispute for a card fraud transaction, is going to need to go launch or trigger the API call to verify a SIM swap. And if the answer that it gets back is going to be, yes, we did have in the past 24 hours, for example, a SIM swap, it will automatically hand over to the next agent who is going to go block the card, or to the third agent who is going to go open a case fraud on the API level. And you start to see how all these things need to come together, and the API becomes an essential tool or a requirement that needs to be trusted by this agent for it to continue its workflow. If we get a response from the API that's maybe, then we'll need to assign a risk score, and that's not going to work. Which is why what Qatar announced today, both Ooredoo and Vodafone, providing the 100% coverage, is also very important, because when you standardize as such, you stop looking at exception, and you become able to apply policy. So you move from policy to exception, and automation hates exception. Rob?
I love that. I want to move. I see the whole enterprise world going here, right? Because you're taking them along, and some of the other players are playing. So that's happening, whether we like it or not, right? AI is coming. It's coming for our jobs. It's coming for our stuff. But it's relying on the telco. So I guess that's the good part. We're still in business here if we get that trust part. Now, I want to go. We have 2 more minutes left. I want to go to the collaboration part. So one of the things that we do at Capasa is we also we work with cases and case directories and state of the market, where's things going, and how's collaboration going to help solve the next generation of problems, basically, innovation. And we also do, we're starting to do investments into startups and scale-ups that want to build this new stuff. Because I think this is crucial. We need the usage to grow. So startups, we have seen plenty, again, not picking on the telcos, but we've seen plenty of POCs using network APIs, and then they go nowhere because there's no money to build a proper company out of that. So looking at you, Mohsin, what would you need from this industry to make your plans come true? Is that funding? Is that more support from the operators? Is that go-to-market support? What's the sort of stuff that you would need as a startup scale-up to be successful?
Thank you for that. Again, building on from the relationships, right? So we're talking about the industry that we are serving is the underserved industry. So they're the biggest segment in the GCC. The biggest numbers generator for the mobile operators. Yet the most limited products.
I'm going to interrupt you. We have 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You all get 10 seconds to say what you need from the other players in the industry to become successful. 10 seconds. What do you need?
So we need the identification to be opened up with their traits. So how can they cross-relate to build a better infrastructure for coordination?
Cool. Thank you. Eli, what do you need from the rest of the players here?
The platform needs to be your strategy. That's it.
Cool. Joanna, what do you need from the others?
Telcos, participate. Everybody else, tell us what you want.
Oh, I have plenty. We're going to talk. Thank you so much, guys. Give them a big hand of applause. And thank you for being here. And I'll hand it back now to for the introduction of the next session. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Why not?
You me?
Rob, very good.
Right. Welcome, everyone. Well, that was a great session.
Sorry, I did.
So my name's Paresh Modi. I head up GSMA Fusion, which is part of the Open Gateway Initiative. Actually, Fusion came a little bit later than Open Gateway. Open Gateway is a 3-year program, halfway through it, and it's done a tremendous job in driving supply of standardized APIs out to the industry. What Fusion is all about is not the supply, but the demand side of APIs. So what we want to do is to listen to the voice of the customer. And every day we have the pleasure, myself and my small team, of listening to enterprises and talking to them, understand their needs, gather their requirements, and publish those requirements back out to the operators. Because when I talk to operators, typically I'll say, hey, why is this API not being exposed? And they'll say, oh, there's no demand for it. And then when I go and talk to the enterprise and I say, hey, why have you not launched that service? They'll say, oh, the operators haven't launched, right? So this chicken and egg thing, we need to break that cycle. And that's what we're trying to do with Fusion. It's all about getting those demand indicators from the enterprises about what they want, exactly why they want it, where they want it, and in what kind of timescales. Those demand indicators out to the operators to demonstrate some value. So I've had the pleasure of talking to around 400 odd, between myself and my team, 400 odd enterprises in the last 18 months. And we hear some very clear signals from a range of industries. This session is really meant to be around the demand side, but actually what I really loved about the last session was it just drifted into the demand side naturally. You heard a lot about, the requirement is around identities to be brought together. We want these types of use cases. We believe that the value is this much. So already we're talking about the demand side, which is great. And I think both sides are really important and need to work collaboratively. I'm not going to be doing a big presentation today. I'm going to be a moderator. I've got a fantastic panel, fantastic lineup of speakers. And I'm going to introduce them all individually, but we have this Chief Strategy Officer of Ooredoo. We have a brilliant startup, remote driving. We have one of the biggest tech players on this planet. And we have a world-leading venture firm. So we're going to hear a real set of perspectives today. And so what I'm going to do is first up invite René Werner, who's the Chief Strategy Officer and Acting Chief Commercial Officer, to come on stage for Ooredoo Group. to come on stage and welcome René. Thank you. Over to you. Sorry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to Doha. Very happy to see a large audience here today in Doha, and for the first time MWC in Doha is obviously for us as Ooredoo headquartered here in Doha a special event. So welcome. What I want to do today, and MWC is usually an industry meeting, but it also invites guests from other industries. And when you hear APIs, sometimes I feel like we're a little bit nerdy in the way we talk about our industry. So I want to take you first a little bit through a metaphor. What are APIs and why do we need them? And then second, basically to move onwards from there, what can we do actually with APIs in our industry? What can we enable? Joanna already talked a bit to this. We heard from ServiceNow, we're using it. So I want to give you a little bit of a feel, what can we do? If I move from here, I want to take the analogy of a power grid. As end consumers, have you ever thought how the power comes to you? Do you want to know this? Is this even of interest to you? Probably not, right? So this is way too complex. Engineers should deal with this. And for me, the grid is too complex as an end consumer. And it's not directly accessible. How do you want to plug into this network with high voltage? You get burned, literally. So what is required here is an interface. This industry has come up with something very simple, the plug. The plug is usually not only standardized in countries, it's usually standardized in regions. And the plug, more or less, gives you access to the grid. You don't need to know how the grid, the infrastructure, looks in the background. You don't need to design a network, a grid, and care about how the voltage is, because the voltage is standardized. That's what the grid is. So if you move from there, more or less, the grid has enabled an ecosystem. That ecosystem is basically what you see here. New industries were born from that standardization. None of the manufacturers of the gear you see here was ever caring about how the power grid looks like. So this has basically driven economic growth, innovation across multi-industries. Now the question is, how does the telco industry actually look at this? If you look at this, this is pretty much like we're in a certain way like a power grid. Where do which connections lead to, where points of interconnection? No consumer industry of the telco industry should even know that. It's not needed. What we need is basically a plug of our own. And that plug of our own is basically has a simple name, API. So in short, application programming interface. This is supposed to enable client industries of the telco industry to innovate, to make it simple for our client industries to innovate, bring their creativity to the forefront, and for the telco industry to literally empower these client industries to drive their innovations, to more or less give their growth and the telco industry to facilitate this growth. Sometimes we forget this. We usually, as a telco industry, have a certain legacy, and I say this with all self-awareness, that we find or we develop solutions for problems yet to be invented. It's way better to talk to your end customers and say, like, what do you actually need? What do we need to build for you? So for us, this is the API world. If you look at where we come from, networks are technically complex beasts. I try to oversimplify this. In the past, you can work with digital service partners, for example, that might need network functionality. You might run very complex, very long projects that take you months to execute on this. at the speed that the digital ecosystem is innovating, this is not acceptable. There is no way that we can actually participate. And this is why the telco industry has often lost value creation, because we were not able to deliver to that need. We heard earlier about network as a service. If you look today at the hyperscalers are making 20–25% of their revenues from egress charges. This is a classical telco service. Why is this? Because we couldn't provide the service as an industry previously. So now the question is, where would APIs take us? If you suddenly move away from long projects that take you months to execute, to actually say, look, I have my own plugs, just plug in, if they're standardized. So if we look at the standardization in the industry, this is what enables speed. This is what enables creativity. If we as telcos don't have the attitude like we know better what to innovate, if we know better, basically, we would be digital service players. We're an infrastructure, and we should be an infrastructure enabler. And this is, for example, at the core of Ooredoo's strategy to be a digital infrastructure leader who makes that infrastructure accessible to partners in our ecosystem. So the platform industry that Rob talked earlier about is at the core of our strategy. And to empower basically the infrastructure customers with easy interfaces to us, our capabilities on the network. If I move from here, if you say, what are we looking at? APIs are sometimes very technical. We heard today about silent number verification, SNV. What the hell does that mean? If you're sitting somewhere as a consumer, so like silent number verification, I don't care. SIM swap, what the hell? How does that help me? The very simple question that we have to ask us is, what are use cases? How do we basically drive use cases? What is the use case here? I want to have a simple, secure, and easy payment. I don't want to see fraud. Anybody using my data without me knowing, not acceptable. So how do we go there? If you say, for example, here, entertainment, sign in made easy, right? I forget my passwords like probably everybody in this room does. And probably everybody in this room has a similar solution, probably 3 to 4 passwords for all of your use cases. If one of them get hacked, you get the nice Apple messages like, oh, you should change your password, please. This stuff is potentially not needed anymore because we can help with this as an industry. We have the insights and we have the capabilities to do this. If you go further, for example, identity made easy, right? You need to go, and I'm coming from a country called Germany, right? In Germany, to do a government transaction, I have to go physically, literally, to all of the government offices. I don't want to waste my time. How can I be identified so that the security needs of the government and the authorities are delivered, are safe? At the same time, I can do this digitally, like I should. We have the data because all of us, regulatory-wise, and this was actually something good the regulator did, we have to identify our customers in a very diligent process. We have these customer records. So in other words, we have the data, it's there. The use case could be governments, could be anything else where you need to identify at high security levels. If you go further, e-commerce, right? Just think about the good old services that were in a supermarket. You buy 6 cans of Coke, and you get a little voucher code and say, like, unlock your free MP3 download. That was a long time ago before Spotify was there or other music players. What we can do today is as well, we can gift basically data. It's very easy. It's at the core of our industry. But how do you make that accessible? I don't need to determine in which use case you want to gift, but I can create for you the ability to gift, right? And we work with partners that might even gift in circumstances where we're in dire straits, where you have, for example, people that have absolutely no money available, and you can gift, for example, data as access to education, as access to basically their basic needs, which is these days also data access to the internet. So if you go with this, what have we done at Ooredoo? And we have basically built more than 300 plus APIs. And this is available across our full footprint. So we serve 8 consolidated countries under Ooredoo. So you can connect to us, and these services become available at Ooredoo. So we serve basically here from the group, as well as our operating companies, as an enabler for parties that want to work with us throughout the region in a standardized way. We follow industry standards. The problem that our industry has, and I think Joanna knows this as well from her work at Vodafone, we at Ooredoo were confronted when we started on our little journey towards APIs to say, look, what is actually the standard? At that time, various institutions were out there and were saying, it's us. With whom do you work? In the meanwhile, the industry has seen that this is not healthy and this is converging. And we have now literally with TM Forum, as well as the GSMA, which have recently said we jointly certify APIs, literally, effectively global standards on the APIs. And we are basically member, for example, on the TM Forum, we are Platinum partner, which is basically moving us into the top 10 of the global telcos with that certification. And our ambition is clearly having standardized APIs where you don't need to ask us, is this API specific? Is there specific bells and whistles that I have to consider when I implement with you? Our APIs are global standards. And that's what is for us important, and this is what we drive. As we said earlier, there's also the question of the developer community. I'm not developing just for Ooredoo, or I'm not developing just for Vodafone, and I'm not developing just for Deutsche Telekom, for example. They want to develop globally and say, my application works globally. That's why we have joined not only Aduna, but also the Bridge Alliance. Both of them combine 4 billion mobile customers across all of their markets. And that is the place where most of the developers would go to and say, look, I buy wholesale access to these APIs, and I make these APIs basically part of my service, part of my application, because it nearly works globally. So we have established this, and we're very happy now to kind of move onwards, not only in Qatar with the announcement with Vodafone, but globally in a partner scheme. Together with the GSMA, there's a market champion initiative. We're discussing also throughout our footprint markets with our fellow industry peers, not only in Qatar, but also in Oman, in Kuwait, and other markets. Basically, how do we make the APIs throughout our markets available? In the past, yes, there has been egoisms in terms of we compete and this is different. I think the industry is beyond that, and we have all understood we have a responsibility to make the infrastructure accessible in an easy way, and we're following that path. That being said, let me kind of just quickly introduce you. We have basically multiple products. I just picked 4 here. We have anti-fraud products that make basically banking easy. If you say, I'm a digital service partner and I want to do payment, I want to put basically my service on your bill, we can do that for you. This is harmonized across our footprint. So if you come to us, you immediately can switch this on for 8 markets of Ooredoo. If you basically want to say, I need to verify the identity of my customer, we can provide that service as well. If you say, I need to embed communication capabilities, and for example, Microsoft, or we had today Salesforce here, we had also ServiceNow here, we have SAP here. They say, like, how do I trigger actually from my application a call to my fellow colleague? How do I do this? Straight away to his mobile. We have these capabilities now available, and they are standardized at Ooredoo, based and following global standards. That being said, I'm very happy that we have our announcement here, 100% coverage of 2 key APIs as a first step into the market. If you ask me frankly, we have way more APIs, so that discussion should ideally be broadened further and taken to a much better level than 2. But 2 is a start. So let's focus on that. Let's make it happen. And if you're somebody from the banking industry, I can only say all of your transactions will become not only more convenient, they will become also substantially more secure. And this will be a differentiator in the market if you go with this. The other piece which I want to say, for example, silent number verification. I'm not sure if in the audience there is somebody from Sonunu or Talabat, for example. E-commerce players that usually use the good old OTP lose in their purchase funnel usually 20 to 30% of their transactions by the customer needs to go to the OTP, the customer needs to type in the OTP. A lot of customers say, I'm not doing this. Some customers might even say, well, I don't know even what an OTP is. Sometimes we come always from our perspective, we know what an OTP is. If you have a silent number verification, your purchase funnel gets literally 20, 30% better. And this is what we aim for. That being said, we basically hope that this is not only unlocking innovation, we hope it's unlocking also better customer experiences, and we hope that this is a good solution for the industry here in the country. And whoever wants to join the, so to say, API bandwagon to provide better experiences, please talk to us or our Vodafone colleagues. We will make it happen for you. That being said, if there is any questions we have for all of our APIs, I talked about more than 300 plus, a developer portal. Everybody is invited there. There's a sandbox. You can literally play and develop your applications. Reach out to us. The barcode will give you a contact to my colleague and my team. And I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Great. That was super impressive. Lots of energy in the region, lots of collaboration, which is fantastic. Gonna carry on with the theme of an impressive company, this time much smaller, and also an impressive individual. This lady is the former European Sales Director of Procter & Gamble, managing a 1.6 billion revenue stream. She's also a former CEO of a startup that became third largest in their category, and now is the COO and co-founder of a brilliant startup called Elmo. Elmo is a remote driving software and hardware provider that allows you to retrofit onto any vehicle. And you'll have seen the demo, but I'm sure Tuli will tell you. I'd like to welcome on stage the COO and co-founder of Elmo, Tuli Tolmats-Ayap.
This as well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Tuli from Elmo, and we make old trucks to do new tricks. So what does that mean is we take any vehicle, we add a brain to it, and you can drive it from anywhere. So I have three key messages for you today. One is that this technology is already happening today. This is today, not tomorrow. So alive, commercialized. Second thing, to scale this really, really fast, we need quality on demand APIs. There was a great speech on APIs. We need them. So we want to scale fast. Let's do this. And the third thing I'm going to talk about is predicting the future. I bet in the next less than 5 years, you're going to have 100 to 500 remotely driven cars under one cell tower. So this will be a new world, and we will need those APIs to allow for that. But going to that first message. So what is this technology about? Elmo puts a new brain to the car, a couple of cameras, wiring, and off we go. And from that remote station, you can be anywhere in the world. There's no limitation. There's no limitation of speed either. So you can do it on any car, any distance, any speed. We have the most experience when it comes to teledriving across the world. We already have done 4 different use cases and 9 different car models. So far, the record of teledriving distance has been 3,400 kilometers away. But I'm very glad to say that we've just broken that record yesterday, and we are driving here in this event 4,300 kilometers away, powered by Ooredoo. And thank you to GSMA making that demo happen. So we are driving here to Estonia, Tallinn, which is then over 4,000 kilometers away. So there is really no limitation, and you can try it yourself. We are already street legal 3 years, so we're on public roads. We started off in car sharing, then moved on to the military use case, so we are front lines of Ukraine, helping to save lives. And we also are active in taxi service this summer, and we've done road safety truck in Canada. So different use cases, different experiences. So when you think about it, like just a little bit more detail for you, so you really link in what does this mean for you as a consumer. If you think about renting a car, today you have to go and pick it up yourself. But in this new world, you can get the car delivered to you, so you don't go anywhere. Then you do your drive, whatever you need to do, and then it just goes away smoothly and does valet parking on its own. And this is done by then a teledriver who sits in a nice, comfortable office and jumps from one car to another, which means that from fleet ownership point of view, you have a lot of efficiencies you can achieve. So you do the same number of rides with 40% less cars. Also, you save on logistics and maintenance, so it becomes a very good ROI case for them. I think on military use case, I don't need to explain. It makes sense that you do operations remotely, you save soldiers' lives. When we think about networks, this is now the interesting bit to you. So quality on demand becomes essential to make sure that we have it when we have many cars under one cell tower. We always drive below 200 milliseconds, so you do need a good quality network, and you need stability. And this is the most important thing. Every single second, you have to be on. Otherwise, you're not driving. And for that, we need that slice. If we have that slice, we're comfortable to scale to hundreds and thousands of vehicles. So this is one of the taxis that was in use this summer in Tallinn. It's really interesting. People got very excited that you jump into a car and there is no driver, and the driver can speak to you, but you don't see it. Now, in a taxi use case, it's more of a salary arbitrage and social anxiety case rather than a lot of good ROI from the beginning. But an interesting to see that people got so excited and there was nobody complaining. And you had so high demand that we couldn't even fill it. That's why I believe that the future is hundreds of cars under one cell tower and making sure that we have that slice available to make that happen. So today, in the GSMA box, you can actually have that experience yourself. You can sit in the driver's seat and drive the car either in the beautiful sea line in Doha or in Tallinn. So your choice, and to come and make the record with us. Also, if you have any questions, come and talk to me afterwards, and I'm sure we can answer them. Thank you.
Jens. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of spending 3 days with Elmo, including in the desert, and they're a great company, and do try the demo. It is a lot of fun, as long as you don't crash the car. Well, they won't let you because the safety driver won't. So the next session, we'll move on into a fireside chat. We are very happy to have Google with us. So Sridhar Golupudi from Google Cloud. Please, can you join me on stage? Look at me there. Please, take a seat. Sridhar, I know you lead telecoms within the Google Cloud. Tell us a little bit about your role more broadly in the ecosystem and what you're doing there, and also, with the wider kind of collaborations that you're doing at the moment and how it relates to network APIs.
Sure. Hi, everybody. So when we started this journey with a few of the telcos, including Joanna from Vodafone and a few others, this was more than 2.5 years ago. When the telcos approached us with the API, the Kamara story, honestly, our response to them was thanks, but no thanks. We've seen this before, and we don't see much of the progress. I'll be honest with you, in the 2.5 years that I've been working with this consortium, it's been incredible progress in terms of where the APIs are today, what kind of use cases have been deployed, including use cases that Google is using ourselves internally for our own use cases. So that's kind of the context of how we got involved in this. And where we sit in this stack is we are leaning in, Google Cloud is leaning in where we excel, which is developer ecosystems. That's what we do very well. We have multiple of those. We got Android, Play Store, Cloud Marketplace, Workspace, you name it, across the board. So, and when the operators told us this time around we're going to be having a developer-first point of view when we develop these APIs, that was music to our ears. That was like, yeah, this is the way you need to be doing it. So that's how we got involved, and that's where we sit. So essentially, we think of us as the surface for our developer ecosystems that would, expose these APIs that all these different telcos are publishing, and some of the stories that you've heard before.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I think Google's role has been instrumental in, helping us move forward in the ecosystem. So I think that's well appreciated. I'm just going to move over onto my side of the fence in terms of the demand side. We have our initiative, which we call GSMA Fusion, which is all about reaching out to the enterprises to understand their requirements. To what extent do you believe enterprises are aware and interested in network APIs, and how much is it an education exercise?
Honestly, it is still very much an education exercise. It's still very much an awareness exercise. And it's not just the awareness issue that is we see as we talk to our enterprise customers that's prevalent. It's also the belief that is this going to be real this time, right? Again, it's exactly like our reaction that was 2.5 years ago when we first started working with Kamara. That feeling is prevalent in at least the big enterprises who have tried this before. Is it true this time? We've talked to the telcos 3-4 years ago, and is Kamara true, right? So there's a bit of that. So there's an education about not just the fact that we have certain APIs, but the fact that this is true this time, right? So yes, definitely there's an awareness challenge that we have to address.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that what I'm finding is that when you explain it to them, the art of the possible becomes more clear.
Absolutely.
And then they start to then come up with their own ideas of APIs that they would love to have in Kamara, and then that's a really good thing. Whether it's all possible, that's a different matter, but it's a great conversation to have. It just kind of opens up the dialogue, and then you can end up starting with baby steps, but at least going in a direction together.
Absolutely true. So again, from a Google experience, my role is evangelizing network APIs for our developer ecosystem, but it's also evangelizing network APIs for internal Google. We have 9 first-party apps that are over 1 billion users, right? So we have plenty of properties that could potentially use these APIs. And Firebase phone number verification, which is a variation of the silent phone number verification that Google launched. It took me almost a year to work with that team to convince them that this is real. But once that happened, it's a flywheel. Now they're starting to work on other APIs as well. So you're absolutely right. So once they see the art of the possible, they're very quick to get on the bandwagon, if you will, and start a lot. But it's that first step that we need to take.
Yeah,
and we're seeing this outside of Google too. I can't name the use cases and the developers we're working with today. Watch out for the space for MWC Barcelona. You'll hopefully hear a few of those names. But and these are big names, mostly banks at this point, for the anti-fraud use case that some of the other speakers were pointing out. Again, it took us a good 2-3 months to convince them that this is real, and within 2 months, they're all in pilots right now. So.
Right, that's really impressive. So yeah, you mentioned the banking industry, financial services. What other industries do you believe are most ripe for the network APIs, and which ones should we look out for that we should maybe be cognizant of in terms of who's going to be a key customer of these APIs?
I would say anti-fraud identity use case is still the majority. I would, if you put some numbers, it's 70-80% of the overall market out there. And for the reason for that is there's an existing use case for it. And these banks and other fintechs are using either an SMS OTP or some other mechanism, header enrichment and other stuff, to solve that problem. So it's for them, it's not a new problem, it's an existing problem, it's a better mousetrap, right? So I think that's still going to be the majority of the use cases over the next 12, 18 months for sure. But beyond that, we are seeing some green shoots, if you will, specifically in location verification, both for streaming content where you have geo-fenced content, and the streaming companies, including a streaming service that's within Google, are looking at potentially using location verification for verifying the entitlement for the user to stream that content. And then there is QoD. Tuli mentioned QoD. I think QoD focusing on enterprise use cases versus consumer use cases is really important.
Yeah.
And so, but as long as we keep that distinction, I think that's definitely something that we need to watch out for. And then over the last few months, there's been a few regulatory requirements for age verification, especially for social apps.
Yep.
And so we're seeing that as well, where KYC seems to be in focus now.
Yeah, very, very hot at the moment.
Yeah.
In the last 3 to 6 months, it's gone crazy on age verification. That's what I've noticed. Great. Look, we're almost out of time. What is one key message that you would have for the demand side, for the enterprises, and one key message that you would have for the supply side, for the operators and channel partners?
I'm smiling because there's more than one key message for the operators, but definitely one key message for the enterprises is believe the story. It's real. It's happening. And two is, I guess that was also discussed in the previous presentations, is that be open with your requirements. Just because an API has been published doesn't mean it's set in stone. And again, Google is an example. When we started working with Number Verify 1.0, we found out that we needed some changes in how the API was being defined and published. And so we worked with the appropriate telco partners, and now we have 2.1 published, right? So that's the key message for enterprises. A, it's real, and B, be very forceful with your requirements,
right,
because the other side is listening, right? From a telco perspective, I think most of the points were already discussed before, but unfortunately there's more than one. Number one is that please start, acting. It's real, right? Don't wait for business cases anymore.
Yeah.
Just the business is there. Just get it done, right? So simple things like start standardizing across, as the global reach is very important, especially for the big enterprises, right? So absolutely you have to standardize. Don't worry about competition and how am I going to compete and differentiate myself. Aggregate, of course, some of the aggregators that were discussed, Aduna and a few others, Glide, Nokia, partners that we work with, they're very important. So start the aggregation play, and then start deploying the APIs. And again, it's okay to not have 300 APIs. It's okay to start with 4 APIs. That's enough. Let's get that rolling and then start, make the money first, invest and make the money, and then scale your business.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry we're out of time. We could be here for at least another hour and having this conversation, but maybe later on.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Siddha. So next up is Nikolai Shatagan, CEO of Matchmaker Ventures, one of the most prominent venture capital in this industry. So thank you so much, and welcome to MWC Doha.
Thank you.
Is yours.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to round up. And I was thinking about how do I round up this great round of discussion. I think we have learned a lot and we've heard a lot, and we've seen identity use cases. We have a great use case on location, quality of service. So there was a wide range of topics, and I believe it's great, and it's greatly ungreat where we are at this point of time, right? We still talk a lot about concepts, talk a lot about POCs, talk about capabilities, and not yet a lot about traction. Because at the end of the day, if you think about it, I think the term was a platform business. If you think about a platform business, 2008, Apple launched its App Store. They had 500 apps at the beginning of its career when it launched. Within 3 days, they had 10 million downloads. Within 1 year, they had 15,000 apps on the App Store. Within 24 months, they have 50,000 apps on the App Store. That is a platform, right? So this is where real scalability comes in. So any use case we talk about today, we just have a fraction of understanding of what really will be out there. The possibilities are endless, I believe. At the end of the day, at this point, if you look at the pure numbers forecast, it's painful. Many forecasts, even 2030, it's a fraction of today's revenues. It's not worth our time, let's be honest, if we just talk about that one. But I think network APIs are so much more than just, hey, let me make a little bit of money of authentication here, quality of service there. I think it's a very strategic question for operators to remain relevant. And let me walk you through my thinking. First one, I think we can skip that one pretty much, discuss it at length, identity authentication. There's money, yes. Is it 10, is it 15 billion right now? I believe if we put money into the hands, again, think about App Store, right? 10 million downloads within 3 days. From 500 to 15,000 applications within 12 months to 50,000 within 24 months. That is possibilities. If I give this power into the hands of developers and they can think about it, play around with them on this global scale, there will be so many use cases. I'm going to start shivering just because of the pure amount of possibilities and opportunities out there. That is real power. We have an Horizon 2, absolutely, quality of demand, vertical specific applications, yes, which will be there, right? You will have location-based services, marketing is coming in. It's another $1 trillion market that we talk about marketing, right? We haven't even tapped about it. It's not considered. Give these powers into the hands of the application developers, and they will develop you the use cases out of that one. Yes, we'll think about, hey, geofencing, what offers do I have? Media, content, streaming. There's so many use cases out there. Again, I'm shivering out of that one. And now comes my real point. 1 and 2 is nice to have, we'll make money, yes, we'll be good. The strategic relevance really comes, and Rob in the discussion touches briefly on the topic, is Horizon number 3, the physical AI economy. Everybody has heard Jensen Huang, yes, we talk about it, yes, they're moving into intelligence at the edge. Said it before the other stage, the world will never be as slow as today, right? The world will never be as slow as today. The change we have seen in the past 24 months, past 12 months, in the past 12 days, it's incredible pace of change. We will see today machine to robots 1 to 2 connected, right? 1 human, 2 machines connected. In 5 years, 1 to 5, 1 to 10, we don't know, it's going to be massive. And yes, we're going to put an MCP on it. You have agentic, you can stream that one. I want secured. I want to have ability to steer those machines. I need to have, as an operator, the control plane. I need to remain in the driver's seat. That's what I'm saying. Network APIs are everything else but just a business case. And the reality is, and that's where kind of our business, we work with a lot of tech companies, a lot of them in the network API field. We talk with a lot of other operators, And too often I still hear, yeah, you know, the business case, let me see where the market is going, what can I really do? Yes, some identification, but the strategic element out of this discussion, I think what really boils down, what really changes the entire storyline of that one. We'll see massive shift to that one. You want to steer your machine. You don't want to have robots flying around, drones flying around on a best effort basis. That's ludicrous. You need to be able to control those machines, to have ability to react in a real time, put on top of it edge compute with that one, and then again, we bring that one to the manufacturing side, smart city side. That is where really the massive scale will going to come in, and there are really strong believer operators leaving out. And there's a risk, of course, you know, the risk of non-action. The authentication already today, if you go to France, you can do an identification in real time with an app and with an AI. You just scan your face and actually it identifies your age, which is good enough. And that's the point. We always believe we're technically perfect. It needs to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect for a lot of use cases. Edge verify takes, you can just do it within a few seconds. It's seamless. You do a picture, or it's in real time, verify your age, and say, yes, this guy is more than 18, this guy is about. So there will be found workarounds. If you have the hyperscalers, if you go to the machine private networks, yes, you can operate that one. So it's not a market, this is ours to have, it's ours to take. That's very, very different. It's ours as the industry to take that market, but that requires that we really step forward into this market. I believe the GCC is uniquely positioned. We see for multiple reasons. On the one hand, we have very ambitious governments. We have an agility, and I come to speed topic in a second, that is unprecedented almost. We have cash-rich operators, cash-rich countries as well. So CapEx, yes, there's investment needs into that one. We have a lot of greenfield operations here, right? If you look at Saudi Arabia, there's big greenfield operations where I can really start that from scratch. If you think about 5G standalones, one of the leaders worldwide here in the regions, again, where you see a lot of technology being rolled out at scale. You have a lot of talent coming into the region, both being grown up from the region, but also attracting to that one. So it's really a melting pot where I believe a lot of great things can happen, and really to take this market, not one step, but 2 or even 3 steps forward. So I really believe there's a great reason to talk here at the Doha event about network APIs and the opportunities behind it. Think about airports, ports, energy, smart cities. Again, manifold opportunities where we can create a lot of outcomes for them. Lead by vision, be bold, be fast. It's not just a slogan, but I keep on saying that, or repeating that one. I strongly believe that one. What does it mean, vision? I define a future where I don't have yet all the evidence that it's true, right? So that's visionary thinking. Visionary thinking is not, I know something is certain, I did my analysis and my consultants gave me the facts and figures, and now this is the way to go. No, that's not visionary. Visionary is taking a decision that, hey, I don't know all of the outcomes. Be bold. Again, what is be bold? Bold means I could be wrong. That's bold. I'm bold if I take a decision and I could be wrong. I take it with full of the risk and involved in that one. And be fast. I'm faster than anybody else thinks it's possible. This is very much a speed game out there. Be visionary as an operator. 20% of all my revenues, my new revenues by 2030 need to come from network APIs. That's a visionary, bold statement. That's what aligns, right? So that's what I hear a lot of announcement, which is great. There's a lot of enablement, which is great. I'm missing the big vision. We can make this market. And I'm not talking about 10 billion or 20 billion. I believe the game is much, much bigger. The stakes at play are much, much higher than 0.61% of the total telecom market. So this is the real visionary, be bold, be fast. If I were an operator, I think you need to ask a couple of really key questions, what you really need to have and need to be very clear about. What's really my strategy? I think it really is a strategic topic. It's not an operationally technology-driven or somebody in the enterprise team being assigned to you take care of network APIs. This is a strategic topic. It requires and deserves a strategic answer to that one. And that goes, as I said, all the way to top-level KPIs. This is what I want to achieve, and I align my organization around it. I align, we're a lot about partnerships, collaboration. Obviously, the name Matchmaker Ventures, I love it, so I'm all for that one. So it's about collaboration. My edge infrastructure, AI stack, collaboration, as said, and really how do I control, where do I keep my value part in that field? Summing up, I think it's great timing. great pleasure to be here. I'm just on time. Thank you, everybody, very much. It was an honor to be here, and big round of applause to everybody here. Thank you.